Hello, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to introduce you to the PASS survey from GL Assessment. I'm going to show you how you can learn more about your students and how they feel about themselves as learners within your school, so that you can consider the impact of this and use this information to finalize intervention and other plans that you may have. In this way, you can be confident that you are making decisions on the basis of relevant and reliable data. By the way, in case you're wondering, PASS stands for Pupil Attitudes to Self and School. This is the first of 4 short videos introducing you to PASS, our Pupil Attitudinal Survey. In this video, we'll look at exactly what PASS is. In the second video, we'll consider why you should use PASS in your school with all your students taking part in the survey. The third video will take you briefly through the PASS report, explaining what data you get from each section. Finally, we'll have a look at a couple of examples of how schools are using their PASS data, and also how to use standardized data from more than one assessment to identify possible barriers to learning. But first, let me tell you a little about GL Assessment. Our expertise in assessment has been gained from many years of working with schools and teachers, not just in the UK, but also in many countries worldwide. Our aim is to provide you with data that will help you to enable every child to realise their full potential in the classroom by taking into account his or her ability to achieve, comparing that with their current attainment, and then identifying any barriers to learning that a student may be encountering. We work with expert partners, including universities and leading educational research institutions, to develop our assessments in order to ensure that they are rigorous and academically sound, and also that they are in line with current best practice in education. In the case of PASS, this survey was developed in collaboration with 4 universities, 20 local authorities, and many schools and students. Our assessments are widely used by the Education Endowment Foundation, the EEF, to measure the impact of their intervention research. Everything that we do, from assessment tests to the service and support we provide, is informed by what school leaders tell us they need and by an understanding of the realities of teaching today. So what is PASS? PASS is a short psychometric survey which, as I mentioned earlier, is a great way of letting your students tell you how they feel about themselves as learners, as well as the place they learn in and the people in that place who they learn from and with. In some cases, it will help you to identify the barriers that may be preventing a student from achieving his or her best in the classroom. In other cases, it may help you to predict which students are likely to start truanting as they progress through the school, or understand some of the behaviour issues that occur in the classroom. It can inform you about their mental health and well-being, so whilst PASS is not a mental health screener, it may assist you in identifying those for whom a mental health screening may be appropriate. It's true that children can be very good at disguising any issues that they may have, but it is also true that students with positive attitudes to learning will be much more successful in their educational achievement. Coming into the classroom with a positive attitude can only be a good thing and something to be encouraged. PASS helps you to uncover aspects about individual students that you and your colleagues may be unaware of. Sometimes it may challenge your thoughts. It lets you measure just how positive are the attitudes of your students in a selection of areas to ensure that attainment results from the classroom can be the best possible. So why measure attitudes? We know that attitudes can change, so what will this achieve? Well, our attitudes play a vitally important part in our everyday lives. They influence everything we do, every day, our feelings, our thoughts, our actions. In a classroom, you can interpret these areas as affective, behavioural, and cognitive. We know that children with a positive attitude to learning are much more likely to function better in school. We also know that students who feel that they haven't been taught properly how to learn are much more likely to disengage, with all the problems that this can bring. PASS can help in these areas, and so it is really useful to be able to measure each student's attitudes to learning. Once we know a pupil's attitudes, we can do something about improving them where necessary. Change attitudes and you can change behaviour. Okay, now let's take a look at how the survey works from an admin viewpoint. PASS can be used with students from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 5, and today I'm going to focus on the version for Key Stage 2 to 5. The Key Stage 1 version is the same but made simpler. From Key Stage 2 to 5, students read 50 short statements. The reading age is chronological age 7 years, and then choose one of 4 options to respond to each statement. And as you can see on the screen, there is no middle option such as I don't know or I don't care. It is completed online, and once a student has responded to all 50 statements, they are done. That's all there is to it. Our recommendation is that the PASS survey is used annually, and probably sometime between the middle of the autumn term and the middle of the spring term. Try to find a relatively quiet time that can be replicated year on year. Students for whom you have a concern and may have introduced some form of intervention may be resurveyed termly in between the main surveys to monitor any changes. The survey takes the students' responses and uses them to report against these 9 factors or areas, all of which are closely linked to learning. You can see that some clearly relate to school and people, such as feelings about school and attitudes to teachers. Some relate to how students feel about themselves as learners, such as perceived learning capability and self-regard as a learner, and some look at a student's motivation to succeed in life. We will look at these in more detail in a later video in this series, but it is these 9 areas that your reports will focus on. As I mentioned earlier, PASS was well researched over a number of years, with universities, local authorities and schools being involved. Recently, we carried out further research to look into helping schools understand their data, and we came up with this model. As you can see, we have rearranged the order of the factors into 3 groups. The first of these looks at a student's self-concept as a learner, the second looks at how they engage with learning, and the third group looks at contextual factors. Of course, this is not the only way to look at PASS factors, and there are many different combinations that can be examined, depending on the circumstances in each individual case. We will look at how to interpret a PASS report in the 3rd video in this series. Thank you for watching this, the first of our videos introducing the PASS Attitudinal Survey, and I hope it has given you a clear idea of what PASS is. Why not have a look at part 2, where we will be discussing why you should consider using PASS in your school. In the meantime, if you have any questions or would like more information, then please contact us using the info on the screen. Thank you and goodbye.